Greetings, Roboteers, and welcome to a special episode of Robocraft in which we are going to be taking a detailed look at the full Spectrum Combat change log, patch notes if you prefer, for the latest release. More or less an expansion to Robocraft. In fact, some might say it's a reimagining of Robocraft. The changes are that expansive. Now, just to get this out of the way, the footage that you're going to be seeing in the background of this video is not real time. I am not playing the game as I'm talking. This is footage from the stream that I held last night, the surprise Robocraft stream, specifically to get footage for this video. So you will probably see a couple of familiar faces. You'll probably see, or rather names, you'll probably also see some non-familiar names. But suffice it to say, they are all dapplings. We're just platooning for some shenanigans and generally enjoying exploring the patch. Now, let's kick things off with the special early Christmas present from FreeJam. All existing users, that is, people who had accounts prior to this expansion being delivered, will get free premium until New Year's Day. Each day you log in between today and New Year's Day, your account will be credited with an additional day of premium. If you're already a premium user, then you'll get those days added onto your existing premium account, which is extremely generous of them. As you can also probably see in the background, we have got the new hangar, or rather the old hangar. Actually, it's kind of a new hangar because it's had a bit of a facelift, but oh my goodness, I'm so glad to be out of the basement. I didn't realize I'd missed that effectively superfluous information as much as I had. It was basically just a pretty backdrop around me building a bot, but somehow being stuck in some sterile engineering, plain grey, white basement room really was a downer, and I didn't even realize how much of a downer it was until I had the regular hangar back. Oh, I'm so glad to see him. Now, painting your robots. I'm sure many of you want to hear about this. You can paint your robots using the new paint applicator gun, which you can toggle between the block manipulator and the paint applicator with the keys 1 and 2 by default. I'm not sure if you can actually rebind them. I'm sure you can, though. Now, with the paint gun, you can use your mouse wheel to cycle through the various colors that you have available. Left click to paint a cube. Hold left click to fire paint like a machine gun, so just ba 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 ba. Or you can hold right click to fill the robot. Now, the longer you hold it, up to a progress bar of 100%, will then complete just completely paint the robot. Everything will be painted with that color. But if you left go mid-fill, it will cancel the fill operation. You can use the mouse wheel, as I said, to cycle between the colors, but you can also use the middle mouse wheel, or the F key, to pick the color of the cubes that you're looking at. In much the same way, you could use the R key when you've got the block manipulator to copy the cube that you can see. Interesting thing to note, when you do that, when you've got the block manipulator, or the cube manipulator as it's properly named, and you press R, it'll also copy the color of the cube that you're looking at, which is good to bear in mind. You can press the Q button for a color palette, so you can just select a color from there rather than use the mouse wheel if you would prefer. And if mirror mode is active and you haven't forgotten it, like I do, like at least 85% of the time, then color is painted in much the same way as block placement would be. You will mirror it to each side. Now, it is worth noting that there are only 4 colors for free accounts. I don't know what those 4 colors are because no one has got a free account at the moment because everyone has effectively got premium. But there are 16 colors available to all premium users. Now, do remember that everyone has premium until New Year's Day, and premium colors on your robot will remain there when your premium runs out. So it's not a case of you only have access to it until premium time runs out. You will always have access to it. Once you've painted that block is painted. Now, I'm not sure how that is going to work with pressing R. As I mentioned, when you've got the cube manipulator and you press R on a colored block, it copies the color as well. I wonder if it might be sneakily possible to create a color palette swatch on your robot so that you can still use different colors. I doubt it's going to be possible, and even if it was, I imagine it would be changed, but it would be interesting to find out one way or another. Now, again, remember that once you've run out of premium, you still keep those colors. and remember that until New Year's Day, you effectively have premium regardless whether you had it before or not. So now is the time to be painting your robots. If you've got robots that you're absolutely set on, you're never really going to change them, paint them now. Well, in fact, even if you're going to change them, paint them now anyway. Why not? It'll remain painted with the premium colours up until such a time as you decide to change something. All chassis cubes can be painted, all movement hardware and special cubes can be painted, and all cosmetic cubes can be painted as well, including the masks. Now, speaking about all of the cubes that can be painted, armour has changed. Now, it specifically said that armour has been upgraded, and I guess that is kind of true, but armour has been changed. I wouldn't quite say that this is an upgrade. It's like saying, I've got this apple, I've upgraded it to an orange. No. Apples don't upgrade to oranges. Those are two different things, and that's what this armour feels to me now. It's a very different beast from what it was before. All armour has been effectively upgraded to Carbon 6 for everyone. That is the stat of the Carbon 6 armour. There's also new shapes. There's only one type of armour now in effect, like the tier of armour, which is based on the style of Carbon 6 with the same health and mass stats that Carbon 6 had, as I said. All users who previously owned Carbon 6 cubes or Halo cubes, which were very specific cubes that you get at tier 10 and during like Halloween events, that sort of stuff, will have their RP reimbursed so they can repurpose that for other things. The game has been completely rebalanced for one type of armor. Weapons, electroplates, robot rankings, all rebalanced to match the single type of armor that now exists. Carry masses of functional movement cubes have been upgraded to account for that new, much higher mass of upgraded chassis cubes. For example, if you had a robot that you built for Mark 1, it would probably have very light Mark 1 cubes. It now weighs ridiculously more than it used to, and in fact, the robot is now a much higher ranking, it's got much more armor, but also the wheels are probably okay at dealing with it, more or less. Many new 1x1x1 shapes have been added to the chassis category. There's more large sizes of shapes to follow in 2016. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing with that, but it sounds pretty interesting. All of the S-type variants have been removed. Now, this is specifically talking about the functional cubes. Non-S-type stats have been upgraded to S-type stats. Effectively, they decided that they liked the S-type look better than the base one. So when they were coloured, it's the difference that you might have seen a Tier 1 SMG versus a Tier 2 SMG. Same model, slight differences, very slight differences, and certain, like, they'd sometimes have like bars of color across them, just little bits to make it obvious that this is an S type, this is a mark above Mark 1. And then at Mark 3 you would end up with a completely different type of SMG shape. Well, now there's only one in each type. They're all S type shapes. All removed cubes have been replaced with equivalent cubes to maintain your robot integrity. So if something has been taken away from the cubes that you had before, it has now been put back with similar cubes, just so that your bots don't flat out break when you load into the garage. The tech tree layout has been reworked to reflect the changes above in a spiral formation. And of course, talking about things being removed, a lot of you are aware that the pilot seat was going. You know what, I'm not even sure that I actually like this one. I like it from the sense of the bots no longer have this kind of really clunky component that has to be there, and by damaging that one single component, your entire bot is gone. But I don't know, I like the aesthetic of the pilot seat. But, for better or worse, the pilot seat has been removed. You no longer need a pilot seat to drive your robot. The pilot seat object has been removed altogether to prevent confusion. All pilot seats have been replaced with cubes in order to maintain the connectivity of your existing robot. So effectively, when the pilot seat was removed by the system, it put blocks there where the connectors would have been on the pilot seat, so that your bot still holds together. Robots are still damaged in the same way as previously via damage propagation, but robots now die when they have less than 25% of their natural CPU remaining. Now that is really, really interesting to note. In my test battles during the stream, there were bots that were largely intact, or at least it looked like they were largely intact. Their armor shell was pretty well maintained, but they were on a sliver of health. It seems that now prioritizing taking off the functional components is king. If you shoot off those guns, because the guns typically are worth a lot more than just the armor cubes, same with the wheels, same with the thrusters. If you knock those functional components off, in terms of CPU, they were taking up the lion's share of the bot's CPU. Once they're gone, the bot will either flat out already be destroyed, or you'll have shaved it down quite a lot in terms of its remaining CPU before it dies. It'll only have a sliver of health left. Hitting the armor off or cleaving off one side of the bot is not necessarily always the smartest thing to do now, and that it is going to take a little bit of adapting to, because there's a new way of fighting as a result of that. Now, in their test, this has provided more consistency in damage and destruction of robots and less random one-shot kills. Now, I can certainly appreciate that. A lot of people are going to be much happier with that, given the way that Rails would sometimes play, or Plasma Bomb is just, a well-aimed shot on an unprotected part of your pilot seat, and bam, robot's gone. That is not going to happen anymore. You're not going to have to build your bot with an idea of trying to move the damage away from your cockpit, because it doesn't matter anymore. There's not two single blocks right underneath your pilot seat that if they get blown up, the entire bot goes. No. Now that is interesting in both how you attack people and how you design your bot sort of way. Mega Seat removed and replaced with a Mega Module. Now, if you remember, the way a Megabot was defined is if it had a Mega Seat, then your CPU maximum was drastically increased and it was effectively a Megabot. So they couldn't quite just take away the pilot seat with that one. Now, the Mega Module is designed roughly to occupy the same space that it used to, with the same connection points, so it will maintain integrity again. So when you go to your Megabot, instead of seeing the pilot seat just removed, you've got a Mega Module there rather than just a couple of blocks. The Mega Module just gives you extra CPU. Disconnecting the module from the functional part in a battle does not result in the Megabot death, because the Megabots are also subject to the 25% CPU remaining. So, although the Mega Module is what is giving you this massive boost of CPU, it seems that the game only cares what your CPU was when you entered the battle. It isn't adjusting your CPU max when you lose the Mega Module or anything like that. So it isn't too complicated. It's more or less the same sort of deal with Megabots and regular ones. Now, the next fairly big change, in my opinion, kind of goes hand in hand with the changes to the armor, with the changes to the way that a robot is destroyed, in the whole 25%, less than 25% of the CPU, and then it blows up. There is now an auto health regen feature, and this really shouldn't be underestimated. I did underestimate it for like half of the stream last night, and then when I finally actually sat down and paid attention to it, because a couple of people in the chat room were telling me, hey, check this out, you're not giving it enough credit. My goodness, is this thing powerful. If you take damage and retreat to cover, your robot will automatically regen after a cooldown period of about 10 seconds. It'll have this little beeping effect to let you know it's spooling up, ready to start repairing. Now, if you take any damage or shoot, it doesn't matter whether you hit something, if you shoot, and this does also count for healing from what I could tell. If you heal someone or just even activate your heal beams, if you do anything at all other than run away, because you can still move, you don't have to be sitting still, you can still be repositioning if the fight is following you, so, you only need to be running away and not taking damage. You don't need to find a safe spot, which might not exist. Then your robot will start to repair, and it repairs really, really fast. Think back to the oldie days of Robocraft, where after a battle, you could watch your robot being rebuilt in kind of an animated way in your garage. This is what's happening now. It's not quite that fast, that would be completely bonkers, but it is much, much faster than the battle arena healing from within the shield dome, for example. It is much faster. If you need to heal and you're far away, or you've lost movement options, don't self-destruct. If you're somewhere relatively safe, just wait the 10 seconds. Just let it happen. Because if you do, it's probably only going to take like 13 to 15 seconds to be fully healed from barely anything left. It is really powerful. I'm not sure if it's going to stay that way, though. In my opinion, it's a little bit too powerful. It almost invalidates having medics around because you're so capable of just repairing yourself if you can just get away from the fight for 10 seconds. The main reason I think this might be a bit of an issue is flyers. Now, I am sure that many of us are familiar with the situation where you clip a flyer's wings and it just crashes off into the horizon and then kind of nosedives behind a cliff. No one can get there, but who cares? The flyer's been crippled. It's not really part of this game. Actually, now in 10 seconds, well, in 10 seconds it's going to start repairing. By about 15 seconds, it's going to be fully repaired from almost dead. It is really going to be important to finish what you start. No more will it be a case of, well, I've taken this enemy's weapons off and his wheels off. There's no medics on the enemy team. We may as well just leave him there and go off and fight something else. No. You need to finish it, because if you leave that one there, it will come back and probably kill you. So this does require some fairly significant battle tactic changes. Interestingly, and also, if you can somehow make these ejector seats, they were always of very moderate use previously, but now they're really going to be useful. If you can consistently get away from an almost certain death situation because people just disconnect enough of your bot, then yeah, you can just find yourself a quiet little corner, wait for a few moments, and then your gigantic battle tank is fully healed. Little OP? Probably. Maybe nerfed in the future? I would say probably, but we'll see. Now, so far we've talked a lot about changes to the way you would build your bots, but there's also been a change to your garages as well, and literally how many bots you can build. You can now add extra garage slots for free. You just click on Add New to get an extra slot. Now, there is a caveat with this. There is a maximum of 25. Previously, people could have a lot more than 25 if they were purchasing them with Galaxy Cash. At this point, that is no longer possible. If you had more than 25 before this patch landed, that's fine. You just won't be able to add extra slots, but you'll still keep all of the slots that you've previously gotten. Any user who owned more than 3 garage slots will have all of the Galaxy Cash reimbursed for each extra slot. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to play with those who had more than 25 garages. Honestly, I wouldn't have any issue if someone who bought 50 of them previously, prior to this patch, got all of that Galaxy Cash back. You know what? They were supporting the developers way back when, and they had no idea that they were eventually going to get this back. So yeah, you know, that's just a hidden bonus of having been generous and having supported the developers. I wouldn't have any issue with it. I don't know if that's how it works. It might be that you only get reimbursed up to 25 garages, because that is how much a normal person would be able to get at this point. But, you know, regardless, I think that's pretty cool. Additionally, speaking about free garages, at long last, all of the game modes are reopened to everyone, regardless of what rank they are at. You no longer need to have a very high-ranked robot to be able to engage in the pit, for example, or Battle Arena. From now on, Team Deathmatch, Battle Arena, and the Pit are unlocked and available for all users and all robot ranks, and that is such good news. I spent a fair bit of time last night playing in Battle Arena. It has been a very long time since I was able to do so. Well, that being said, I was always able to do so, but if I ever played with a robot in a lower ranking, as is often the case with streams, then it was locked to Team Deathmatch. Now, additional leagues game mode for those wishing to enter the leagues separately. So high rank robots can now play Battle Arena without being ranked if they wish. So you have to explicitly enter league games. You can just play regular, kind of like friendly Battle Arena matches without worrying about your rank. Next up, and very briefly, there have been some major changes to the CRF, the way the CRF works. So purchasing bots on the sort of bot exchange. I'm not going to go into the details on how this has changed because I've not really covered it in my Robocraft coverage up to now. So instead, I'll probably in the very near future do a little bit of a series where I'm checking out various robots of other people and renting them and all that sort of stuff. And I'll go over how it works in detail then. But in case you are someone who does make extensive use of this, understand that it has changed a fair bit, and you may want to look over the patch notes. Specifically, the RP prices have changed quite a lot, and whenever you spend any RP on a bot, it is then yours. It's cubes, garage slots, things like that. You can also still purchase things for Galaxy Cash, and there are different restrictions. For if you're purchasing something with Galaxy Cash, there are far fewer restrictions. In fact, I don't think there are any restrictions on which bots you can purchase, but if you're just buying them with RP, then it is limited in certain ways depending on your premium status, that sort of stuff. So it's worth checking that out. But with that said, we move instead to the more technical side of things, and we're probably only going to go over this fairly briefly. First and foremost, and probably the most important, the game has been updated from Unity 4 to Unity 5. That is the game engine. This has had enormous improvements on the game's performance. If previously you tried Robocraft and you found it sluggish or very low FPS, then do consider trying it again because things have changed enormously. My computer's always been able to run Robocraft at a very high FPS, but the FPS is now pretty much unlocked. I'm not seeing highs of 80 FPS, I'm seeing highs in the hundreds and hundreds of FPS. So on a low-end system, you may well find that you're hitting the 60s, the 80s, possibly even the 120s. It is definitely worth a check. The 60 FPS cap has been fully removed, as mentioned. I was capping out at about 240 or around 230, 240, somewhere around there last night. There is now multiple core support, which massively improves the performance on specifically low-end systems, but also on high-end systems a little bit. But obviously, if you have a high-end system, you're probably not going to notice as big of an improvement. In their own tests on low-end laptops, it showed an improvement from FPS rates of 30 increasing all the way up to about 80-90 in Unity 5, with overall game FPS comparable to Minecraft or better in many cases, which is actually a pretty big thing because Minecraft runs fairly well on almost any system. So if Robocraft can now say, well, it's kind of comparable to that, it's going to be available on a lot more systems, which is going to mean there's going to be a hike in server population. It's going to be easy to find games, which is all good things for the Robocraft community as a whole. There has been an improvement to the lighting and special effects in the engine. The game's physics simulation has been rewritten to support Unity 5, and Unity 5's physics and rendering have been heavily optimized. So overall, the game runs much better than it used to. And of course, in addition to these changes, there are a slew of minor changes, such as tweaks to the stats on certain things. For example, rail cannons now reload 1/3 faster than they used to. They've gone down from 12 seconds to 8 seconds. Plasma cannons reload reduced by 20% across the board. Even electroplate's recovery time has been reduced from 15 to 10 seconds. So it seems that the game is moving much more to a sort of a little bit more of a fast-paced sort of battle rather than the long protracted wars of attrition that we were seeing previously. League entry requirement is now reduced to 25k. And speaking about the rank required to do things, ranks have changed dramatically. As you can imagine, with such a massive change to the way the armor works and all of the tweaks to the various settings on weapons and the various stats on things, ranks have enormously changed. It would be worth going through all of your robots and just getting a feel for where they now sit in the ranking. In fact, what used to be a low ranking is now a mid ranking. The ranks seem to have tended downwards rather than up, so you're finding less of a difference in a way between bots. But again, without there being a massive difference in the rank of armor, I guess there literally is less of a difference between bots, so it doesn't seem to be bad at the moment. In the games that I played last night, I didn't feel that anyone was hopelessly outmatched, though it was quite curious taking bots that I'd built largely for a sort of rank 5, rank 6, and fighting against robots that had lots of mega weapons on them. It was like, really? This is crazy. Previously, one of those guns would be worth about 3 or 4 of my bot in total. But at this point, I was evenly matched against them, and I wasn't losing. That's the thing, is the armor has really changed the way the game plays. And in addition to the other changes, there's lots of bug fixes, as you can imagine. Apparently there's some of bug fixes have been implemented to try and stop people falling through the floor. That is a big one. It's been there for an awful long time. And I think a lot of bugs were kicked out when the update to Unity 5 came along. Sometimes that's just the way it works. But in a nutshell, Robocraft has changed in a plethora of ways, too many to easily note all of them. I'm going to be discovering new changes probably over several days of playing. In fact, I'm probably going to end up playing some more of that on the stream this evening, but we'll see about that one. But if you have played Robocraft previously and perhaps stopped playing because you played a lot of it, or you just weren't too happy with where things were sat or the direction the changes were going on, it might be worth giving it a look in now, because from a lot of people's responses, it seems that Robocraft has kind of recaptured the fun that a lot of people felt that it had lost. And for my part, I never felt that Robocraft had become unfun, but I can't deny that it is much more fun than it was in the last patch, the last iteration. I am having so much fun with it at the moment. But I will see you all in the next and coming Robocraft episodes, where we're gonna just be trying to work out the lay of the land now all of these changes have come in. I hope to see you then, but until then, do take care.